Oh, that worked. Hi. Welcome to the Astoria Bookshop. I'm Kiski. I'm the event coordinator here, and we are super excited to have Robert Repino for Dark, for the War with No Name series. We have a lot of fans at the store, including myself. So now is the time I tell you to please silence your cell phones, although you are more than welcome to tag us on social media, tag Rob on social media, do all that good stuff. We also do a lot of events here at the bookshop. We have a sign up for our email newsletter up by the register, and we also have Rob's books up at the register. So if you have not done so yet, please purchase one. It allows us to not only support Rob, but allow us to continue bringing great authors to Astoria. So now I'll do a little bio. Robert Repino grew up in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. After serving in the Peace Corps, he earned an MFA in creative writing from Emerson College. His fiction has appeared in the Literary Review, Night Train, Hobart, the Coachella Review, and more. I'm now realizing we still have Amy Winehouse going. He lives in New York and works as an editor for Oxford University Press. Dark follows the novel Mort and the novella Cul-de-sac in the War with No Name series. And I will give it to Rob and turn off Amy.
Let us pray. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really grateful and honored and moved, and thank you so much. It means a lot. This book was a long time coming, and I'm so glad I could share it with all of you. Thank you, Astoria Bookshop. I met Lexi, who's in charge of this place, a few months ago. I met Kiski a few months before that. This bookstore kind of started like on a whim, and now it's doing all this awesome stuff. Not just me. They've had Roxanne Gay twice, and they've had all these other big events here, and like they're doing really awesome things to like encourage literature and the literary community in New York. So I'm just really grateful. Okay, so these readings are typically very boring and very pretentious, so I'm going to do something a little different. We're going to do a little quiz on Mort and see who can actually get a question right. I have some goofy prizes to hand out. Are you ready? All right. First, this is very precious, okay? It's the Mort, or the Dark tote bag with the Song of the Beavers on the back, which is sort of the theme of the whole book. We will meet again in the darkness where you and I will be the only light. I can't sing like the Beavers because they bang the ground with their tail. And I can't do that. Okay. And then we have, and I don't think they sell these here. Then we have the Cul-de-sac audiobook. I'm going to give one of those out. If you win, you have to win. And then this is what happens when your parents are retired and they have way too much time on their hands. Hey, look, it even has a little like tattoo on the back. Isn't that amazing? That's it. All right, don't clap too loud because they voted for Trump. Okay, so this question is, okay, raise your hand if you read more. Okay, so we have a good number of people here. All right, Kelly, I'm going to need your help here. May I ask what your birthday is?
March 13th.
March 13th. Does any of the Mort readers have a birthday on or near March 13th? Okay. You think you can answer a question?
I'll try.
Okay. This is Matt Thomas, by the way. By the way, March 13th is the day I got a phone call from Jennifer, who's my agent here. March 13th, 2013 was the day I got a phone call saying that Soho was acquiring this book.
Wow.
And then I immediately, and I dropped the phone like minutes later and cracked the fridge. So it was, yeah. Okay, so you think you can answer this question? All right, I'm sorry to do this. Okay.
It's been 2 years.
So the question is, can you name another member of the Red Sphinx other than Mort, Cul-de-sac, or Wawa? Sorry. Okay. Oh, this is embarrassing, isn't it? Okay. Does someone want to yell it out?
Archer.
Archer. Very good. All right. Take your pick. Which one would you like? Tote bag? Oh, get out of my life. Okay. All right. Mitch wins the tote bag. Okay. All right. All right. That's it. You can leave. Okay. I'm going to read. I swear I timed this maybe 5 minutes, 6. Okay. I'll do my best to get through it. Okay. So real quick, this is from the first chapter of Dark. And my man person. This is from the first chapter of Dark. There is a sinister race of fish people called the Sarcops. They are sort of like crab-like. They have tentacles. They're very vicious, and they are on the run from a race of sharks who are trying to hunt them down. Okay, so when we meet them here, they're about to get attacked in their lair, which they call Cold Trench. They're looking up. There's a little vein of rock called the Lip, and through the Lip they see a fleet of sharks swimming over them. The sharks are looking for them. They're trying to hunt them all down. And it's the leader of the Sarcops is named Talik. He has a sort of harem of mates that they lead the whole species with, and his lead mate, his prime he calls her, is named Aurak, and she sort of keeps everybody else in line. Okay, so I think that's all I have to set this up.
Repeat all of that back now, everybody.
All right, and there will maybe the next quiz question has to do with this. So I don't know. So you have no choice. And think of questions now, because when I ask if anyone has any questions, we have that awkward silence. It's really, it just hurts my feelings. All right. Okay. All right. We're in the depths of Cold Trench now. Okay. Talik told his troops that they would follow him under the Lip at full speed. Oh shit! I already screwed something up. Okay, so there's a shark. The leader of the sharks is named Grey Death. Okay. Here we go. All right. Sorry. Try take two. Okay. Talik told his troops that they would follow him under the Lip at full speed. They would overtake the fleet at the northern end of the crevasse, near the water's edge. There, Talik would kill Grey Death in front of everyone. No more hiding. Today their enemies would learn what the Sarcops could do. Talik called for Zursk and Asha, his third and seventh mates, who carried eggs in their pouches. When he confronted Grey Death, these two would release their eggs. Doing so would distract the sharks, who saw only the food in front of their faces. Aurak watched them closely as they listened, ready to pounce on any sign of disapproval. As a consolation for their pending sacrifice, Talik assured them that they would recover some of the young. "We will cut them from the bellies of dead sharks," he said. "The young ones will have a story to tell." He turned away from his soldiers and headed north, using the rocky Lip for cover while keeping an eye on the movement above. He felt Aurak's presence slightly behind him. She could lead if he died, but he would live. The Queen still had so much to show him. Cold Trench grew shallower. The cover of the Lip gave way to open water, where the sharks blotted out the light, piercing the surface. Talik ascended, faster than the others, homing in on Grey Death. He felt so tiny in the expanse. The ground rising behind him blocked any hope of escape. The water shivered as the sharks detected movement. Grey Death aimed his snout at the intruder. His mouth split in half, a red pit of jagged teeth. Scars from numerous battles left deep divots in his skin. A severed claw still punctured his dorsal fin, a permanent reminder of some creature that died trying to fight the sharks. Talik charged at him, claws unsheathed, tentacles reaching out. They collided, a sound like boulders toppling in the trench. Tumbling and twisting, Grey Death pulled free from Talik's grip and clamped his teeth at the root of one of his tentacles. Talik struggled to keep the mouth open, to stop the shark from shearing off the limb at the base. Blood leaked from the puncture wounds, driving Grey Death into a new realm of delirium. Talik tried to pluck out the eye, but Grey Death squirmed his face out of reach, using his mouth as a shield. The shark's momentum dragged Talik away from the battle, away from Cold Trench, and toward the shallows, where Talik would not be able to escape. Talik let him do it. Sensing victory, Grey Death thrashed again, letting go of the wounded tentacle and twisting his snout toward Talik's head. With his claws, Talik held the jaw open, gripping so tightly that some of the teeth broke off like seashells. He pulled the shark toward land, toward the edge of the known world. They crashed onto a bed of rocks, kicking up dust and debris. A primitive creature, Grey Death nevertheless sensed the violation of the natural order that awaited him at the surface. Desperate, he tried to buck free of his opponent. A wave caught them, slamming them onto the earth. From here, Talik could stand, and when he did, he broke free from the water. And even with the monster still trying to tear his head off, Talik gazed at the new world, the land of the Queen, a golden patch of fine sand stretching from one end to the other, anchoring a blue dome. Holding his breath, he dragged the shark out of the foamy waves. Talik's body grew heavy, as if a giant claw pressed him under the water where he belonged. The shark's eyes shimmered under the piercing light, stunned at the impossibility of it all. The Queen called everyone to this place, though only a few would prove worthy. Grey Death, a king of the deep, writhed in agony.
No water would rush through his gills ever again. His enormous eye caked in sand, the shark trembled as his life bled away at last. Talik felt as though he would burst. Unable to resist any longer, he opened his mouth, allowing the gills to flare out. Water sprayed from the two openings. The strange, weightless fluid of this place flowed through him, expanding his chest and rounding his segmented back. He released it with a choking cough. Inhaling again, deeper this time, he felt the power of it. And then he let out a roar that rattled his entire body. His voice sounded so different here, higher pitched and free to skitter away in the wind. There were no waves to muffle him. He screamed his name to announce his arrival, to shake the earth so that even the queen in her fortress would hear. This shark that lay at his feet did not have a name, save the one Talik gave to it. Grey Death did not even understand the concept of a word, how it could rumble from the throat and swim through the water or float in the air before finding purchase in someone else's mind. The queen showed Talik how to do this, first in his dreams and now while he was awake. Talik gripped the bulging eyeball of the shark and wrenched it free of its socket. He held it aloft and said his name again and again until the blood dripped down his claw. Maybe you can yell this one out. I don't know. All right. I'll say, other than Orak, what was the name of one of his mates?
Asha.
Yes. What do you want? We have.
I'll take the t-shirt.
Oh, so this thing that I worked really hard on. This work of art that I said, you want a t-shirt? I'm kidding. What's your name?
David.
Hi, David. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it. All right. Bronson's going to cry, though. This is Bronson Princho reading this. He's going to cry when he hears it. No. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. All right. I guess now we do some questions, and then we will sign some books, and we'll go to a bar.
That's a great evening.
All right. That's the plan? That's on the schedule? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Matt.
Is there going to be an audiobook for Dark? And if so,
it exists.
oh, really?
And you can, if you go to Amazon.com right now, Bronson Pinchot, you can get a clip of him reading the first few lines.
Oh, all right.
The first page or two, actually. So yeah, it exists. It's happening. I sent him a big email with all the pronunciations of all the names, so that was fun. Yeah, so it's happening. All right. Anybody else? Oh man. Yes, Renesh. Thank you, Renesh.
Here.
I love you.
How'd you get so handsome? No.
I never met him.
I know. I have to speak for his mother. Was it always from before Mort? Was it always a conscious decision to only have ants as the insects? Because I remember there being talk of flies surrounding dead bodies, and they're not sentient, or they're not,
Yeah.
Was that always a decision to not have butterflies and grasshoppers join the gang?
Yeah, it was. This is one of many cases where some people who have read the other books have been like, your universe is not entirely consistent. And I'm like, that's correct.
Yes.
I think the rule that I came up with, and I mentioned this, there's literally one line of exposition in the first book that sort of tries to brush this aside, where it just says the ants formed alliances with other insects. The logic being that if all the insects grew too big, then their food supply would collapse and their populations would collapse. So that was sort of the idea. I sort of like the idea of the queen. So the ant queen is trying to raise up these other species in part to sort of show her glory, because these mammals and these birds are so backward that only she can lift them up. The insects are practically perfect, so they don't need to be lifted up in her. But that was sort of the thinking there. It also just would have been so sprawling, and so I would have lost track of all of my own rules, which is not good. But thank you for the question.
Of course.
All right. Yes?
How do you pick what animals to include in the story?
Most of it is limited by geography because it takes place in Pennsylvania, so most of the creatures there are animals that will be indigenous to that area. I did cheat a little because the first book does have a chimpanzee, but the suggestion is that she's escaped from a zoo. The there's also Dark has an orangutan. And what else? Yeah, but most of them are sort of indigenous to the area. There's like an opossum. Yeah, that was basically the rule. Now, I would like to eventually have lizards, but I don't. That's like another culture I have to build now. So in this one, the beavers like sing, and they sing their history, and they have a little city and all this stuff. So the idea of creating another unique animal culture is a little daunting, but I'll have to pick which animal's worthy.
Can we vote?
Who's that?
Can we vote?
Maybe. That's a good idea. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Yes.
I saw a review of the book sort of compared it to George Orwell's Animal Farm. What do you think of that comparison?
Well, that I've when I first tried to sell the book, I said it was Animal Farm. Think Animal Farm plus Cormac McCarthy and Philip Pullman. So I've been encouraging that for a while. Although I realize that, my book isn't as allegorical, I guess. I mean, I think his book is just straight allegory. The characters represent specific people in history and all that. My book isn't exactly doing that. And plus, it's more violent and more plot-driven in a lot of ways, too. So, yeah, a little different. But, hey, who am I to argue? If people want to compare it to that, I'm not going to say no. So, I like it. Yeah, oh, I see a hand.
Did you always know it was going to be a series, or were you planning on, or were Sheba and Mort supposed to just kind of, you were supposed to go with them in your own mind?
I always had an idea for another set of stories, but I didn't. I mean, the way I pitched it to my agent in Soho was just as one book, just because I don't know. Maybe I should have pitched as a series. That would have been. Should I have done that? I don't know.
No, I mean,
Okay.
it evolved.
It evolved.
It did.
Yes, that's
and
the right
then
word.
you had your novella.
Yes, so it has sort of grown organically. I did have the idea for Dark. Like, I think the first day I met Mark, my editor, who's here, I think I told him, like, so I already have the idea for the sequel. He's like, slow down. We got to cut 100 pages from your first book. Yeah, so yeah, crushing my dreams from day one. No, I'm kidding. No, but I always had the idea for the second book, and now that it's sort of grown into its own thing, yeah, I am thinking of other ways to possibly make it continue to evolve. Yeah, I like evolve. Let's use that. All right.
Bring back the bear. I have my own campaign.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Yes, Maura. I don't know her either. Never met her. I just guessed her name was Maura.
How did you come up with the names?
Yeah, so this question actually came up the other day. First, let me say it's a coincidence that all three have French names. Okay. I think most of the names are meant ironically in a way because the animals are sort of obsessed with their war with the humans, and yet they're borrowing from human culture very heavily. So there's sort of an irony intended with that. There's this weird phenomenon, I don't know if there's a name for it in human history, where people conquer another group of people and then they just take on all of their culture. Like the Romans borrowed a lot of Greek gods, and like the Mongols converted to Islam after they invaded Baghdad, and Americans stole land from Native Americans but then took a lot of their names for places and things like that. I don't understand what that phenomenon is, but in some ways I'm playing on that. Where the animals take on certain human words that they feel are somehow defiant against the humans, but really they're borrowing from human culture. And then there are some animals that also borrow words that are clearly just like a sound that they heard, that they first recognized. One of the characters in the first book is just named Wawa because that's the first word she's able to read. And I'm from the Philadelphia area, so I felt obligated. And we're still working on a sponsorship deal. They're not cool with it. Yeah, that's about it. Yes?
How much research did you have to do on animals to write these books?
So, a good amount. I mean, not... so for the first book, I think the research was mainly on ants and dog fighting. Those are the main areas I needed to learn about. For this one, I needed to learn about certain types of fish creatures and how they evolved, as well as beavers. And I actually just sent an article into Tor.com about the research I did on beavers because the grade school I went to, our mascot used to be the beaver, and then they changed it because the name is problematic, I guess. So they changed it to the bears, which is very boring, but there are a lot of people still angry about this. So I really am sort of rehabilitating the beavers by putting them in this book. They're like my favorite animal now. They're amazing creatures. They're good for the environment, and I also had to do research on bats too. There are bats in this. I watched this amazing documentary where the scientists, through some very gruesome ways, figured out how bats actually use sonar to get around. They just had no idea how they got around. They assumed they could see, then that wasn't the case. Then they actually blinded the bats to have them, and then see, and they still could fly around. So that wasn't it, So yeah, a lot of like nature documentaries with David Attenborough and some other books and things like that. So yeah. Yes.
I know that Mort has been translated into other languages, and I'm wondering if there have been any interesting encounters you've had with the translators, or they've had questions about how to translate a concept or one of the great names in the book.
They haven't reached out to me, actually. I've only had one of them. I'm friends with... they didn't care, I guess. No, I'm kidding. The German translator is... I'm friends with him on Facebook. And he is like a heavy metal enthusiast and seems to have a very good sense of humor. So I think he like got it, which doesn't surprise me that the Germans got it. The Turkish, I didn't hear from the Turkish translator or the Korean translator, so I don't know. I guess probably wouldn't expect to. Yeah, I guess, they didn't have a problem with, I was concerned that they were going to change like the name Wawa. That was like the one word.
Right, how do you translate that?
Yeah, I was concerned about that one, but I think I saw a hand somewhere over here. Yes. Hi.
Can you talk a little bit about the book cover, the design, and the graphics, and how you came up with that?
Yeah, so the cover designer is Capo Amos Ing, and this was really this is the first choice I saw. I don't know, Mark, did you see one before this?
For Mort?
Yes.
The illustration of the dog with the illustration of Mort with the gun was also presented as a front cover option, but the designer and us immediately were leaning towards the face.
Yeah, the reason why I like this is because it's like the right mixture of like whimsy with like deadly serious, because obviously the eyes are like, a little scary looking. But yeah, I think we were all concerned about it becoming like a cartoon rendition of the cat, and I don't think we would want any kind of interpretation to like mess with your imagination of the cat. So I think that's why it was important to have this sort of like be very minimal, and of course the colors are great. This actually was a darker blue at one point. I'm glad it's a lighter blue because it has a seafaring theme to it. So a dark is a seafaring dog. So there you know. All right. Is that David again?
In the intro, it said you worked for Oxford University Press. Did that inform these books in any way? Anything you worked on for that?
Well, I do reference publishing for them, so the websites I work on, it's like a treasure trove of like information, so I can look up a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here about politics and religion, and I happen to edit that kind of content in my day job, so I was sort of immersed in it and, borrowed heavily. I also got a lot of cool names from the different historical sources and things like that. So, okay. And, yes, Matt.
You mentioned that there's a seafaring theme. Did you feel that in the first book that that was maybe an area that you didn't devote as much time as you could have, or just you saw the opportunity to expand into a different realm of animal?
I think I saw the opportunity just because a lot of the book is about this character sort of breaking free from the expectations that are on her and all that. So, and I feel like either getting on a train or going on a boat ride somewhere far away is sort of a good metaphor for that. So I think that was really where it came from. Yeah. All right. Okay. More. Yeah, okay.
Are there going to be other human populations in Dark, or are they going to be not as religious as the humans and more? Like, are they going to be like agnostics?
So this book, the answer is yes. There are, and in fact, a big part of the action in this book takes place in a city that's sort of an alliance between humans and animals. Some of the humans are devoutly religious to the point where it's a cult, and then some of them are a little more laid back, like normal people. So the good thing about this book is that there's a little more diversity to the humans, whereas the first book, because they don't appear till the very end, they were a little more cartoonish. I hope to have a little more subtlety, just a little more. This is not a subtle book, as you may have noted. So, yeah, that answers your question. And I saw a hand somewhere.
Yeah, you mentioned having to cut out like 100 pages from the first book. Did some of that content wind up in Cul-de-sac or Dark, or is it just gone?
It's gone because I have. It's definitely gone. I have a bad tendency of telling too much, which, you know, and just the first drafts of my projects are very often have very, very heavy-handed exposition that just, and once you start to see it, and I usually need another person to tell me what's happening, once I start to see it, and it's almost like your brain gets tuned into a new frequency and you can just start cutting it out. So cutting 100 pages both times ended up being easier than I thought it would be because I just saw all the fluff that I had added to these sentences. Telling the reader how to feel, telling things that were obvious, painfully obvious. So giving backstories to everything, including like inanimate objects. None of that. That once you start seeing that, it goes real quick. So no, none of that made it. I did not sneak any in, Mark. Just so you know. All right, he would know. All right, are we good on time, Kiski?
We are fabulous on time.
Okay, good. All right. Yes.
No, I have a question. So I know that you have had pets in the past, and what do you think you, as a person, less as an author, would do if one day you woke up and your animals were sentient? What would be the first thing you would do?
I probably would run. I mean, I feel like it would just be so freaky. I would think I'd be out of there. I mean, maybe it depends on the species, because I think if it was a cat, I'd be like, they're coming to get me. If it was a dopey, like, very friendly dog, maybe I could reason with it. I don't know. The cat, though, I'd not trust. No, especially not the cat I grew up with. Who thought he was a dog, as we've discussed many times. So, all right. Anybody else? Yes?
What about the fact that you took on, as your main character, a female when the other two books, the novella and so Cul-de-sac and Mort were guys? What was that like to have to...
I mean, you know, the character is still mostly determined by her species than her gender, so I didn't feel like I was taking on this, like, you know, really big task, you know, politically in that sense. Although I did think of it a lot, because obviously a lot of the story is about, you know, a female character who is breaking free of the expectations on her, who has all these, like, stories associated with her, who has all these rules that she's expected to follow, and as the story goes on, she's repeatedly breaking those rules and repeatedly telling people, like, no, I'm not going to do what you want to do. No, you don't own me. Like, so that theme keeps coming up over and over again, and I just tried to make a point of making sure that she has a goal and wants something, and, you know, because in the first book she is just a prop in a lot of ways. You don't see her until, you know, when you finally get to meet her, and she's not who you expect. So this one she actually gets to grow up, and that process of it allowed me to actually develop the character. Whereas Mort's already set in his ways and is, you know, angry and stuff. So that was more. It was a different task because Mort, you could always rely on Mort just saying something sarcastic or doing something violent to just end the scene or drop the mic or whatever. Whereas Dark had to be a little more subtle and a little more, you know, she's still like innocent, but she also knows how to kill people. So, you know, like me. All right, edit that out. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Do you want to do one more quiz question?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let me see if I can get... All right, here's the quiz question. What was the name... Okay, so from the first book... Sorry, I stood up too quick. I'm not that tall, so it's... From Mort, what was the name of Wawa's master? Whoever yells it out.
Tracksuit.
I'm sorry, it's actually tracksuit, one word. You said 2 words, so I heard a hyphen in there. Okay, would you like the audiobook to? Yes. Okay. Or a T-shirt? I think I have another T-shirt. You know, no, take the audiobook.
I know we have lots of visual needs.
Yes. All right. Excellent. I think that's it.
thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. Punch and Judy.
Judy and Punch.
Judy and Punch. Yeah, Punch and Judy sucks. Judy and Punch is way better. And so if you start trickling over there, we will eventually all, or most of us hopefully will be there. I don't know. So there you go. Thank you again. All right.